The rain fell mercilessly over London's financial district, turning the usually bustling streets into a maze of black umbrellas and hurried footsteps. Among the crowd, Olivia Carter clutched her coat tighter around her swollen belly, trying to shield herself from both the bitter cold and the memories that haunted these familiar streets. 6 months pregnant and 5 months divorced. Numbers that shouldn't have aligned, yet here she was, carrying a secret that felt heavier with each passing day. The lights of Constantine Tower loomed ahead, its gleaming facade a painful reminder of the life she'd left behind. How many times had she waited in the lobby for Ethan, watching him descend in his perfectly tailored suits, that crooked smile reserved just for her. Now, the mere sight of the building made her dizzy, or perhaps it was the exhaustion of working double shifts at the publishing house, while preparing for a baby she'd have to raise alone. The world tilted suddenly, the wet pavement rushing up to meet her. Olivia reached out blindly, her umbrella clattering away as darkness crept into the edges of her vision. The last thing she registered was the sound of running footsteps and a horrifyingly familiar voice calling out, "Someone call an ambulance." That voice, it couldn't be. When consciousness returned, it came in fragments, the antiseptic smell of hospital sheets, the steady beep of monitors. And there, by her bedside, sat Ethan Montgomery, his usually impeccable appearance disheveled, those steel-gray eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her heart stutter. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice was barely above a whisper, rough with emotion. One hand rested on the arm of the hospital chair, knuckles white from gripping it too hard. Olivia closed her eyes, fighting back tears. Of all the ways she'd imagined this moment, none had prepared her for the reality of facing him again. "Would you have believed me?" The bitterness in her voice surprised even her. "After everything that happened, after how quickly you believed I'd betrayed you." "This is my child, Olivia." The chair creaked as he leaned forward. 6 months pregnant means you knew when we signed the papers. You knew and you said nothing." "I tried." The words escaped before she could stop them, years of pent-up hurt spilling out. "That last day, in your office. But you wouldn't even look at me. You were too busy believing the lies Richard fed you about me trying to steal company secrets, too consumed with protecting your precious empire to notice I was trying to tell you something important." The memory of that day still burned. Standing in Ethan's corner office, surrounded by floor-to-ceiling windows that made her feel like she was suspended in air, watching as he signed away their 3 years of marriage without meeting her eyes once. She'd placed a hand on her still flat stomach then, the words stuck in her throat as he'd pushed the papers toward her. "I should have known better." Ethan's voice cracked, an unusual display of vulnerability from a man who prided himself on control. "Richard's betrayal. I discovered it too late. The evidence he fabricated, the whole scheme to drive us apart. It was all a play for corporate control. But by then," he ran a hand through his dark hair, a gesture so achingly familiar it made Olivia's chest tight. "By then you were gone." "Mr. Montgomery?" A nurse appeared in the doorway, clipboard in hand. "Dr. Reynolds would like to discuss Mrs. Carter's condition." "Ms." Olivia corrected automatically, ignoring how Ethan flinched at the reminder. "And I'd prefer to speak with the doctor alone." "Like hell you will." Ethan stood, his imposing frame filling the small hospital room. "That's my child you're carrying. I have a right to—" "A right?" Olivia's laugh was hollow. "You gave up your rights when you chose your company over our marriage, when you believed a man you'd known for 2 years over your wife of 3. The monitor beside her bed beeped more rapidly, drawing a concerned look from the nurse. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion later," she suggested firmly. Ms. Carter needs rest. The stress isn't good for the baby." The baby. Their baby. The reality of it seemed to hit Ethan anew as his eyes dropped to Olivia's swollen belly. Something shifted in his expression, the hard lines of anger softening into something more vulnerable, more dangerous to Olivia's carefully constructed walls. "I'm not walking away," he said quietly. the determination in his voice sending shivers down her spine. Not this time. Whether you like it or not, we're connected by this child, and I intend to be part of their life. You can't just decide that. Olivia's voice wavered. You can't just walk back into my life and make demands. I've spent 5 months building a new life, preparing to do this alone because you made it clear our marriage meant nothing to you. Is that what you think? Ethan moved closer, his presence overwhelming in the small room. That our marriage meant nothing? That I didn't spend every day of the past 5 months regretting the biggest mistake of my life? Before Olivia could respond, Dr. Reynolds entered, her presence cutting through the tension like a knife. Ms. Carter, how are you feeling? The fainting spell was likely due to overexertion and low blood pressure, but I'd like to run a few more tests to be sure. Ethan stepped back, but his eyes never left Olivia's face. She could feel the weight of his gaze as the doctor explained the need for overnight observation, the importance of rest, the concerns about her working too hard. Each word seemed to add another brick to the wall Ethan was determined to break. No. I'll have your things brought from your apartment, he said when the doctor finished, his tone brooking no argument. You'll stay at the penthouse while we sort this out. Like hell I will. Olivia pushed herself up straighter, ignoring the wave of dizziness the movement caused. I'm perfectly capable of taking care of myself. Clearly. His voice dripped sarcasm as he gestured to their surroundings. That's why you're in a hospital bed. This isn't just about you anymore, Olivia. Think about our child. Our child. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility and pain. 5 months ago, they would have been cause for celebration, for dreams of a future together. Now they felt like shackles, binding her to a man who had shattered her trust as easily as breaking a wine glass. 24 hours, Ethan said softly, his voice taking on that persuasive tone she remembered all too well from their marriage. Stay under observation for 24 hours, and then we'll discuss arrangements that work for both of us. That's all I'm asking. Olivia looked away, focusing on the rain streaming down the window. Somewhere out there was the life she'd been building, the independence she'd fought for after the divorce. But here, in this sterile hospital room with the father of her child, the past and future collided in ways she'd never prepared for. 24 hours, she agreed finally, still not meeting his eyes. But after that, we do this my way. No demands, no control. If you want to be part of this child's life, you play by my rules. We'll see. The ghost of his old smile played at the corners of his mouth as he settled back into the chair. Get some rest, Olivia. Tomorrow we have a lot to discuss. As she closed her eyes, pretending to sleep, Olivia wondered if fate was laughing at her. 5 months of carefully constructed independence, of learning to live without him, all undone by a moment of weakness and a rainy London street. The baby kicked as if sensing her turmoil, and she placed a protective hand over her belly. 24 hours. She could handle 24 hours with Ethan Montgomery. It was all the hours after that she was worried about. True to his word, Ethan returned the next morning before visiting hours officially began. Olivia wasn't surprised. He'd always wielded influence like a finely crafted weapon, and a hospital's visiting hours policy would hardly stand in his way. What did surprise her was his appearance. Instead of his usual impeccable suit, he wore dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that reminded her painfully of lazy Sunday mornings in their penthouse. Your release papers are being processed, he announced, placing a paper cup of herbal tea, her favorite, on the bedside table. The familiar gesture made her throat tight. I've arranged for... I'm going home, Olivia cut him off, pushing herself up to sitting position. To my apartment. Your 4th floor walk-up in Brixton? His jaw tightened. The one without an elevator? Absolutely not. You've been checking up on me. It wasn't a question. Of course I have. Ethan's expression darkened. The moment I found out about the baby, I had my security team pull everything. Working 60-hour weeks at Henderson Publishing, living in a building with questionable security, taking the tube at all hours. What were you thinking, Olivia? The genuine concern in his voice only fueled her anger. I was thinking I needed to survive, Some of us don't have trust funds and corporate empires to fall back on. You had access to our joint account. Your account, she corrected sharply. And I didn't want your money then, I don't want it now. Ethan ran a hand through his hair in frustration, a gesture so familiar it made her heart ache. This isn't about pride anymore. This is about our child's safety and well-being. Don't. Olivia held up a hand. Don't pretend this is all about the baby. You've been back in my life for less than 24 hours and you're already trying to control everything. Just like before. Before? He stepped closer, his voice dropping dangerously. Before? When I gave you everything you wanted? When I rearranged board meetings to make your gallery openings, when you decided what I wanted without asking. The words burst out of her. When you bought that house in Hampshire without consulting me, when you planned our entire lives around your company's needs. That house was meant to be a surprise. Frustration colored his tone. A place for us to raise our family away from the city's chaos. If you'd just given me a chance to explain, like you gave me a chance to explain about Richard's accusations. The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan's face went through a kaleidoscope of emotions before settling into something resembling regret. I deserve that. Yes, you did. Olivia's hand moved instinctively to her belly as the baby kicked, a movement that didn't go unnoticed by Ethan. His eyes followed the gesture, softening in a way that made her chest tight. Can I? He gestured toward her stomach, then let his hand drop. Never mind. The uncertainty in his voice, so unlike the confident man she'd known, made something shift inside her. The baby usually kicks more in the morning, she found herself saying. Especially after I have tea. Ethan's eyes lit up with cautious hope. Slowly, as if approaching a wounded animal, he moved closer to the bed. Olivia tensed, but didn't pull away when he carefully placed his hand on her swollen belly. The baby, as if on cue, delivered a solid kick. That's... Ethan's voice was rough with emotion. That's our child. Yeah. Olivia blinked back unexpected tears. Active little thing. Takes after you. Never knows when to rest. A ghost of their old intimacy hung in the air, making it hard to breathe. Ethan's hand was warm through the thin hospital gown and, for a moment, Olivia could almost pretend they were back in their penthouse, celebrating their pregnancy together as they should have been. The fantasy shattered when Dr. Reynolds entered, clipboard in hand. Good morning, Ms. Carter. How are you feeling today? Ethan stepped back, the professional mask sliding back into place so smoothly it gave Olivia emotional whiplash. She listened as the doctor detailed her discharge instructions. Reduced work hours, more rest, regular checkups, while Ethan absorbed every word with the same intensity he brought to business meetings. I understand you live alone? Dr. Reynolds asked, glancing between them. Given your condition in yesterday's episode, I'd strongly recommend having someone stay with you for at least a few days. That won't be necessary, Olivia started, but Ethan cut her off. She'll have round-the-clock care. I don't need a nurse, Ethan. Actually, Dr. Reynolds interjected gently, given your blood pressure readings and the stress factors we discussed, having support would be beneficial for both you and the baby. Olivia closed her eyes, recognizing defeat when she saw it. Fine. I'll call Regina. Your friend from the publishing house? Ethan's tone was carefully neutral. The one who lives in Manchester with her 3 kids. Damn him and his thorough background checks. I have other friends. None who can drop everything to care for you. He moved closer, lowering his voice. Be reasonable, Olivia. The penthouse has everything you need. Private elevator, security, space to rest. You'll have your own wing, complete privacy. Just until you're stronger. The last time I was in that penthouse, you were having me served with divorce papers. The memory still stung. Standing in their marble kitchen, the morning light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, as a courier delivered the documents that would end their marriage. Pain flashed across Ethan's face. I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life regretting that day. But right now, this isn't about us. It's about what's best for our child. Our child. He wielded the words like a master strategist, knowing exactly how they would affect her. Because he was right, this wasn't just about them anymore. Her pride wasn't worth risking the baby's health. 2 weeks, she said finally. I'll stay for 2 weeks, just until I'm stronger. But I want everything in writing. My right to leave whenever I want. No interference with my job, no attempts to control my life. A muscle ticked in Ethan's jaw. You really think you need legal protection from me? I think I needed it last time. The words hung between them, heavy with unspoken pain. Fine. He pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. I'll have Laurent draw up an agreement, but in return, I want full disclosure about the pregnancy, doctor's appointments, health updates, everything. Agreed. Olivia held his gaze, refusing to show how much this interaction was costing her emotionally. And Ethan? This arrangement doesn't change anything between us. We're not getting back together. He looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Get dressed. The car will be here in 20 minutes. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. And Olivia, you're wrong. Everything has already changed. After he left, Olivia placed both hands on her belly, feeling the gentle movements of their child. Don't worry, little one, she whispered. Mommy knows exactly what she's doing. But as she changed into the clothes Ethan had brought, designer maternity wear in exactly her size, because of course he'd already handled that, she wondered if she was lying to herself as much as to the baby. Because despite everything, despite all the pain and betrayal, her traitorous heart still skipped a beat when he looked at her the way he used to. 2 weeks in the penthouse. 2 weeks of navigating this new reality where they were connected by the most permanent of bonds, yet separated by wounds that felt impossible to heal. 2 weeks to prove to herself that she was truly over Ethan Montgomery. Somehow she had a feeling it wouldn't be that simple. The penthouse hadn't changed. That was Olivia's first thought as the private elevator doors opened directly into the sprawling living room. The same pale marble floors stretched toward floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of London's skyline. The same minimalist furniture, all clean lines and muted grays, arranged exactly as she remembered. Even the abstract sculpture she'd helped choose for their first anniversary still stood in its corner, catching the afternoon light. Your room is ready, Ethan said behind her, carrying her small suitcase despite her protests. I had the east. Wing prepared. Better morning light for you and the baby. The baby. Everything now revolved around those words, a reality that still felt surreal despite the obvious evidence of her expanding waistline. I can take it from here, she said, reaching for her suitcase. Dr. Reynolds said no heavy lifting. His tone left no room for argument as he strode down the familiar hallway. I had some things delivered for you. Maternity clothes, prenatal vitamins, anything you might need. I have my own things, Ethan. He paused at a set of double doors, his shoulders tensing. I know. But you're here now, and I intend to make sure you and our child have the best of everything. The words sparked a memory, their first major fight after marriage when he'd surprised her by redecorating her home art studio without consulting her. The best of everything, she'd thrown back at him then. But nothing that's actually mine. As if reading her thoughts, Ethan's expression softened. The studio is exactly as you left it, he said quietly. I never changed a thing. The revelation hit her harder than expected. She'd assumed he'd converted the space immediately after she left, turning it back into the home office it had been before their marriage. The thought of it sitting empty all these months, preserved like some sort of shrine to their failed relationship, made her chest tight. Mr. Montgomery? A familiar voice interrupted the moment. You have an urgent call from New York. Olivia turned to find Lawrence, Ethan's longtime personal assistant, standing in the hallway. He'd aged since she'd last seen him, new lines around his eyes speaking to the stressful months following the company's near takeover. Ms. Carter, he corrected himself quickly. It's good to see you again. Lawrence. She managed, a small smile. Still keeping him in line? Trying my best. His returning smile was warm but cautious. Mr. Montgomery, It's Richard Klein's attorneys. They're insisting on speaking with you directly about the pending litigation. Ethan's entire demeanor changed at the mention of Richard's name. Take a message, I'm not available. Sir, they're threatening to go public with certain allegations. Let them. Ethan's voice was steel. I'm done playing their games. Lawrence, implement Protocol 7 immediately, and get me everything we have on Klein's movements over the past 6 months, especially anything concerning Olivia. The professional mask slipped for a moment as Lawrence glanced between them. Everything? Every detail. Ethan turned to Olivia. There's something you need to see. After you've rested. I don't need to rest, she protested automatically, even as fatigue pulled at her limbs. The journey from hospital to penthouse had drained more energy than she wanted to. Admit, 1 hour. His tone softened. Please, Olivia. Then we'll talk. She wanted to argue, to demand answers now, but exhaustion won out. 1 hour, she agreed. Then you tell me everything about Richard. The East Wing suite was larger than her entire Brixton apartment. Sunlight streamed through vast windows, illuminating a sitting area, private bathroom, and a bedroom dominated by an enormous bed with what she knew would be ridiculously expensive sheets. Everything was new, she realized, chosen specifically for her return. The thought should have annoyed her, but instead it stirred something warm and dangerous in her chest. Sleep came surprisingly easily, but brought with it dreams of the past. She was back in their first apartment before the penthouse and the corporate success, when Ethan was still building his company from the ground up. He'd come home late, exhausted, but excited, to find her painting at midnight. I landed the Peterson account, he'd announced, pulling her into a kiss that left paint smudges on his suit. Baby, we're going to make it. Everything I promised you, the gallery, the house, the family, it's all going to happen. She'd believed him then, believed in them. Even as success changed their lives, brought them the penthouse and influence, and complications, she'd never doubted their foundation, not until Richard Klein entered their lives. The memory shifted, became the day everything fell apart. Standing in Ethan's office as Richard presented his evidence, doctored emails, manipulated photos, a carefully constructed narrative that painted her as a corporate spy. She'd watched the trust drain from Ethan's eyes, replaced by cold suspicion. Olivia? Ethan's voice pulled her from the dream. She blinked awake to find him standing in the doorway, his expression troubled. You were talking in your sleep. She pushed herself up, noting that someone, probably the housekeeper, had draped a soft blanket over her. How long was I out? 3 hours. He moved into the room, keeping a careful distance. You needed it. But now we need to talk. I've found something about Richard. Something that changes everything. Olivia studied him, noting the tension in his shoulders, the barely contained anger in his eyes. Tell me. Instead of speaking, he held out a tablet. On the screen was a series of emails dated from 6 months ago, just before their divorce. As she read, her hand instinctively went to her stomach, as if to shield their child from the ugly truth unfolding before her. He planned it all, Ethan said quietly. The fake evidence, the timing, everything. But it wasn't just about the company. He broke off, his hands clenching into fists. He wanted you. The emails made her skin crawl. Messages between Richard and unknown conspirators, detailing not just the corporate takeover attempt but a personal vendetta. Plans to separate her from Ethan, to swoop in as a sympathetic friend once the divorce was final. Did he? She swallowed hard. Did he approach you? After? 3 times. Ethan's voice was rough. Claiming to be concerned about you, offering to reach out on my behalf. I should have seen through it then, but He met her eyes. I was too broken to think clearly. The admission, so unlike his usual controlled demeanor, struck something deep inside her. When did you figure it out? 2 months ago. But by then you'd disappeared. Changed your number, moved apartments. I had no way to reach you. To explain, he ran a hand through his hair. I've been building a case against him, gathering evidence. The company's lawyers are confident we can not only prove corporate espionage, but criminal intent. Olivia felt sick. All those months of pain of rebuilding her life while carrying their child, all because of one man's twisted obsession. Why show me this now? Because he's making moves again. Ethan stepped closer, his expression fierce. And this time, I'm not letting him anywhere near you or our child. The protectiveness in his voice stirred complicated emotions. I can take care of myself, Ethan. I know. His smile was sad. You've proven that. But you shouldn't have to. Not anymore. Not with this. A knock at the door interrupted them. Lawrence entered, his face grave. Sir, you need to see this. Richard Klein just called a press conference. He's claiming Ms. Carter approached him months ago with company secrets. He's painting himself as a whistleblower. Ethan's reaction was immediate and terrifying. Get our PR team on it now. Full media blackout and call Harrison. I want security doubled around the penthouse. Already done, sir, but there's more. Lawrence hesitated. He mentioned the pregnancy, implied it might not be yours. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Olivia watched as Ethan's expression shifted from shock to a cold fury she'd never seen before. Sir? Lawrence prompted carefully. Get me everything. Ethan's voice was deadly quiet. Every detail of his life for the past year. Every contact, every transaction, every dirty little secret. He wants to play this game? Fine. But he's about to learn exactly what happens when you threaten my family. Family. The word hung in the air between them as Lawrence quietly withdrew. Olivia placed both hands on her stomach, feeling their child move restlessly as if sensing the tension. Ethan? She waited until he looked at her. What aren't you telling me? His hesitation was answer enough. Whatever storm was coming, she realized this was only the beginning. And like it or not, they would have to face it together. The media storm hit before dawn. Olivia woke to the sound of rain against the windows and the muffled voice of reporters gathered outside the building. On the nightstand, her phone buzzed incessantly with notifications, messages from coworkers, old friends, even her elderly neighbor in Brixton, all reacting to Richard Klein's press conference. She forced herself to watch the recording, bile rising in her throat as Richard, perfectly groomed in an expensive suit, spun his web of lies with practiced sincerity. It pains me to come forward, he was saying, his expression a masterpiece of staged concern. Ethan Montgomery was more than a business partner. He was a friend. But when his wife approached me with evidence of corporate misconduct, I had a moral obligation to act. The camera panned to show enlarged photos, her and Richard meeting for coffee months ago, carefully framed to appear intimate. She remembered that day with sickening clarity. He'd called claiming to have information about Ethan's sudden change of heart regarding the divorce, playing on her confusion and pain. A knock at the door interrupted the playback. Come in, she called, expecting Lawrence or one of the security team. Instead, Ethan entered looking like he hadn't slept at all. His usual immaculate appearance was rumpled, tie loosened, dark circles under his eyes. He carried 2 mugs, offering her one that smelled like the specialty decaf tea she'd craved during early pregnancy. You've seen it? He asked, though it wasn't really a question. How bad is it? Stock's down 12%. He settled into a chair near the bed, careful to maintain distance. The board's demanding an emergency meeting. Legal's preparing countersuits, but none of that matters right now. Of course it matters. Olivia sat up straighter, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. Your company can weather this storm. I'm more concerned about what this stress is doing to you and the baby. As if on cue, their child delivered a solid kick. Olivia shifted uncomfortably, and Ethan's eyes tracked the movement with an intensity that made her chest tight. I should have seen it, he said quietly. All those meetings he arranged, always positioning himself as the voice of reason during our worst arguments. He was playing us both. He was your friend. He was a snake. Ethan's voice turned hard. And now I know why. Lawrence found something. Bank transfers dating back 18 months. Richard's been working with Carlton Industries the whole time. Carlton? The name sparked recognition. Your main competitor in the Asian market? The same company that tried to buy us out 3 years ago. Ethan leaned forward, his expression intense. Remember that weekend in Singapore, when I was supposedly there for routine meetings? When you came back with that jade pendant for me? The memory surfaced like a bubble breaking, Ethan surprising her with the delicate necklace, his eyes bright with some secret triumph. I was there to stop Carlton from initiating a hostile takeover. They'd been quietly buying shares through shell companies, positioning for control. I blocked it by securing backing from the Jiang Group instead. And now they're trying again through Richard. The pieces clicked into place. But why target me? Why not just attack the company directly? Ethan's jaw tightened. Because they learned from last time. My business decisions, my drive, it all changed after I met you. You became my weakness and my strength. So they needed to remove me from the equation. The realization made her feel cold despite the warm tea. Break your focus, make you vulnerable. And it worked perfectly. Self-loathing crept into his voice. I was so caught up in the betrayal, so blind with hurt. I didn't see the bigger picture until it was too late. A sudden commotion outside drew their attention. Raised voices in the hallway. Then Lawrence burst in without knocking, something he'd never done in all the years Olivia had known him. Sir, there's been a breach. His normally calm demeanor was shaken. Someone accessed Ms. Carter's medical records. They're threatening to release details about the pregnancy. Ethan was on his feet instantly, phone in hand. Get Harrison up here now and call Dr. Reynolds. Warn her about the breach. Already done, but sir. Lawrence hesitated. They're not just after the medical records. They found something else. About Ms. Carter's time in Paris. The mug slipped from Olivia's hands, tea spilling. Across the expensive sheets, Paris. No one was supposed to know about Paris. Olivia? Ethan turned to her, concern warring with confusion on his face. What is he talking about? You've never been to Paris. Her throat closed around the words. I was there 3 months ago, just for a week. I needed to. She pressed a hand to her mouth, fighting sudden nausea that had nothing to do with pregnancy. Understanding dawned in Ethan's eyes, followed quickly by hurt. You went to see him, didn't you? Laurent de Vries. The name hung in the air between them like poison. Laurent, Ethan's former mentor, the man who'd given him his start in business. The man who'd retired to France years ago after a falling out that Ethan never fully explained. He contacted me after the divorce. The words tumbled out. Said he had information about Richard, about what really happened. I was desperate for answers. And you didn't think to tell me this when all of this started? Ethan's voice was dangerously quiet. When I showed you the evidence about Richard, I was going to. But then everything happened so fast. The hospital, moving here, the press conference. What did he tell you? When she hesitated, his expression hardened. Damn it, Olivia, what did Laurent say? Before she could answer, Harrison, head of security, entered with 2 of his team. Sir, we need to move Ms. Carter immediately. We've detected unauthorized surveillance. Equipment in the building across the street. They're watching us? Olivia's hand went protectively to her stomach. Not anymore. Harrison's smile was grim. My team disabled their equipment, but we have to assume they've got backup plans. The safe house in Kent is ready. No. Ethan's voice brooked no argument. The lake house, it's more secure and I need to be able to reach them quickly. Them? Olivia stood, steadying herself against the bedpost. I haven't agreed to go anywhere. This isn't a debate. Ethan moved closer, his expression softening slightly. Whatever Laurent told you, whatever secrets you're keeping, we'll deal with it. But right now, you and our child need to be somewhere safe. I'm not leaving until you know everything." She met his gaze directly. "About Paris, about Laurent, about why Richard really targeted us. You deserve the truth." For a moment, she thought he would argue. Instead, he turned to Harrison. "Give us 10 minutes, then we move." As the others filed out, Ethan remained standing by the window, his back to her. "Start with Paris," he said quietly. "Tell me everything." Olivia took a deep breath, one hand resting on her swollen belly where their child kicked restlessly. The truth had destroyed them once before. Now it might be the only thing that could save them. "It started," she began, "with a letter Laurent sent 2 days after our divorce. The lake house emerged from the morning mist like a modernist dream, all glass and steel nestled among ancient trees. Olivia remembered the first time Ethan had brought her here just weeks after their wedding. My sanctuary, he'd called it, the only property he owned that Richard Klein didn't know about. Now, as Harrison's security team swept the perimeter, she stood in the vast living room watching dawn break over the lake. Behind her, Ethan paced, absorbing everything she'd told him during the tense drive from London. "Let me get this straight," he said finally, his voice carefully controlled. "Laurent claimed Richard was working with Carlton Industries before I even met you, that this whole thing was orchestrated years in advance?" He had proof. Olivia sank into a leather armchair, exhaustion seeping into her bones. "Photos of Richard meeting with Carlton's CEO in Moscow, dated 3 months before he joined your company. Bank transfers through shell companies. Everything. And you believed him?" There was no accusation in Ethan's tone, only a deep weariness. "After how things ended between us, between him and me, I didn't want to." She met his eyes. "But the evidence was compelling. Laurent showed me documents proving Richard had been placing his people throughout your company for years. The takeover attempt was just the final move. Why didn't Laurent come to me directly?" He tried. The memory of Laurent's pained expression in his Paris apartment made her throat tight. "That argument you had, the one that ended your friendship, Richard orchestrated it. Those rumors about Laurent selling company secrets were planted by Richard." Ethan stopped pacing, realization dawning. "To isolate me from the one person who might have seen through his plan. Laurent figured it out too late. By then, Richard had already started poisoning you against me." Her hand went to her stomach as the baby kicked, drawing Ethan's attention. "The pregnancy, it would have ruined everything for them. A child would have permanently bound us together, made you even more resistant to their manipulation." Understanding flickered across Ethan's face. That's why Richard moved when he did. He must have suspected. He knew. The words tasted bitter. "Laurent showed me surveillance photos. Richard had been having me followed for weeks before the divorce. He probably knew about the baby before I did." Ethan's expression darkened dangerously. "I'll destroy him for this." "That's exactly what they want." Olivia leaned forward, wincing at the movement. "Don't you see, they're baiting you, trying to force you into making mistakes. The press conference, the threats about my medical records, it's all calculated to make you react emotionally, instead of strategically." Ms. Carter is right. Harrison entered silently, his face grim. "And we have another problem. Someone accessed the CCTV feeds at your London office 10 minutes ago. They know you're not at the penthouse." "Richard?" "No, sir. The trace led to Carlton Industries' servers in Hong Kong." Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his jaw tightening. "They're calling an emergency board meeting, trying to force a vote of no confidence. You have to go back." The words hurt to say, but Olivia forced them out. "The company needs you there. I'm not leaving you unprotected." "She won't be." Harrison nodded toward the window where 2 unmarked cars were pulling up. "Team 2 just arrived. Former special forces, vetted personally. No one gets within a mile of this place without us knowing." Ethan moved to Olivia's chair, kneeling beside it. "I don't like this. Being separated when I'm carrying your child." She smiled sadly. I survived 5 months without you, Ethan. I can handle a few days. That's not. He ran a hand through his hair in frustration. Things are different now. I can't lose you again. Either of you. The raw honesty in his voice made her chest ache. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed again. Lawrence this time. Sir. His voice came through clearly on speaker. Carlton's CEO just landed at Heathrow. He's requesting a private meeting. Absolutely not, Harrison interjected. It's too risky. No. Ethan stood, decision crystallizing in his eyes. This is perfect. Set it up, Lawrence. Private dining. Room at the Savoy 2 hours from now, and Lawrence, make sure Richard Klein hears about it. What are you planning? Olivia recognized that look, the one he got when all the pieces of a complex deal were falling into place. They want to play chess? His smile was predatory. Fine, but they're about to learn they've been moving exactly the pieces I want them to move. Ethan. She struggled to stand, her swollen belly making it awkward. He moved to help her automatically, his touch sending familiar warmth through her despite everything. Be careful. Richard isn't just trying to take your company. This is personal for him. I know. His hand lingered on her arm. That's his weakness. He lets emotion cloud his judgment. Just like I did when I let him convince me you'd betrayed me. And now? Now? His other hand moved to her stomach, warmth spreading from the point of contact. Now I'm thinking clearly for the first time in months. Whatever game they're playing, they made one crucial mistake. What's that? They gave you back to me. The intensity in his eyes took her breath away. They thought using you against me again would be their winning move. Instead, they've given me back everything I need to destroy them. The baby kicked against his palm, as if in agreement, and something shifted in the air between them. For a moment, Olivia could see the man she'd fallen in love with. Brilliant, passionate, unstoppable when protecting what he loved. Sir? Harrison's voice broke the moment. We need to move if you're going to make that meeting. Ethan stepped back reluctantly. Harrison's team will keep you safe. I'll have Lawrence send hourly updates about what's happening in London. And Olivia? He paused at the door. Thank you for going to Paris, for trying to find the truth even when I was too blind to see it. She watched him leave, his security detail falling into formation around him. Through the window she could see the morning mist starting to lift from the lake, revealing the clear day beyond. He'll be okay, Harrison said quietly, correctly reading her concern. Carlton and Klein won't know what hit them. It's not them I'm worried about. Olivia pressed a hand to her lower back, trying to ease the growing discomfort. Laurent warned me there might be others involved. People even he couldn't identify. Let them come. Harrison's smile was cold. That's why we're here. But as she watched Ethan's car disappear down the private road, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that the real danger was still hidden, waiting to strike when they least expected it. She remembered Laurent's final warning in Paris. The divorce was just the beginning. They won't stop until they've taken everything from him. The baby kicked again, harder this time, and she rubbed her belly soothingly. It's okay, little one, she whispered. Your father's finally fighting the right battle, and this time I'll make sure he doesn't fight it alone. The Savoy's private dining room felt like a battlefield. Ethan sat at one end of the mahogany table, watching Victor Chen, Carlton Industries CEO, stir his tea with practiced precision. Neither man had touched the elaborate lunch spread between them. Your wife's pregnancy is progressing well, I trust? Chen's smile never reached his eyes. The press seemed quite interested in that detail. Let's skip the pretense. Ethan's voice was ice. We both know why you're here. Indeed. Chen set down his spoon with a soft clink. Your company is vulnerable, Ethan. The board is nervous. Shareholders are selling. Richard Klein's accusations have created quite the opportunity. For another takeover attempt? Ethan leaned back, projecting calm he didn't feel. How did the last one work out for you? Circumstances have changed. Chen's smile widened fractionally. Your personal life has become quite messy. The board questions your judgment, and now with a baby on the way, he spread his hands. They worry about your focus. The door opened before Ethan could respond. Richard Klein walked in, exactly as planned, his confident smile faltering slightly when he saw Chen. Richard, Ethan didn't stand. Right on time. I wasn't aware this was a group meeting. Richard recovered quickly, taking a seat. Victor, I didn't expect to see you in London. Clearly. Ethan watched the micro-expressions flitting across Richard's face. Confusion, concern, fear. Problem? Before either man could respond, Ethan's phone chimed with a text. His heart jumped. The arranged signal from Harrison that Olivia was safe. He forced his expression to remain neutral as he read the actual message. Package secure, but we have company. Gentlemen, he said smoothly, tucking the phone away. Let me be clear about what's going to happen next. He placed a USB drive on the table. This contains proof that Carlton Industries has been illegally manipulating my company's stock through shell companies. It also documents every meeting between you two over the past 3 years, including that interesting weekend in Moscow. Richard's face went pale. Chen's smile finally slipped. Additionally, Ethan continued, it proves that Richard has been embezzling from both companies to fund his personal vendetta against me. The SEC will be very interested in those offshore accounts, Richard. You're bluffing. But Richard's voice lacked conviction. Laurent de Vries sends his regards. The name hit like a physical blow. Richard actually flinched while Chen's hands tightened on his teacup. Laurent is a desperate old man, Chen said carefully. His evidence would never stand up in court. No? Ethan's smile was razor sharp. Ask Richard about the real reason he visited Laurent in Paris last year. Ask him what he took from Laurent's safe, and more importantly, what he missed. The look Richard shot Chen was worth everything. In that moment, the carefully constructed alliance between them cracked. I did what was necessary, Richard snapped at Chen. If you'd stuck to the original plan. The original plan didn't involve your obsession with his wife, Chen cut in coldly. You promised a clean takeover. Instead, you let personal feelings compromise everything. Gentlemen, Ethan stood. You have 24 hours to withdraw all pending actions against my company. After that, this evidence goes to the SEC, Interpol, and every major financial publication in the world. You'll destroy your own company in the process, Chen warned. The scandal will be nothing compared to what I'll do to you both if anything happens to Olivia or my child. The threat wasn't subtle. Are we clear? Before they could respond, his phone buzzed again, this time with a call from Harrison. His stomach dropped. This wasn't part of the plan. Excuse me. He stepped away from the table, turning his back on the two men. What's wrong? We've got multiple vehicles approaching the lake house. Harrison's voice was tense. Professional, team, well-equipped. They've taken out our perimeter sensors. Ethan's blood ran cold. Olivia, secure in the panic room. But sir, they knew exactly where to find us. Only a handful of people knew about this location. The realization hit like a physical blow. Ethan turned back to the table, but Chen and Richard were already standing, their expressions telling him everything. You're right, Chen said smoothly. The lake house is quite secure. Such a shame about the construction company that built it, though. Going bankrupt, selling all their records, including the blueprints. Call them off. Ethan's voice was deadly quiet. Now. I don't think so. Richard's confidence had returned. In fact, I think you'll want to reconsider our earlier discussion. Perhaps over dinner? I hear the lake house has a wonderful view. Ethan's finger hovered over the panic button that would bring his security. Team rushing in. But if he moved now, showed his hand. Sir? Harrison's voice was urgent in his ear. We've got maybe 10 minutes before they breach the perimeter. The choice crystallized. He could stay, confront Chen and Richard, expose Everything was in risk: Olivia and their child, or he could let them think they'd won this round. Gentlemen, his voice remained steady through sheer will. We'll continue this discussion later. He was moving before they could respond, already dialing Lawrence. Get the helicopter to the hotel roof. Now. And Lawrence? Initiate protocol. 0. Sir? Lawrence's shock was audible. That protocol, it would mean burning everything, I know. Ethan strode through the hotel's opulent hallway, his security team falling into step. Do it. At the lake house, Olivia paced the confined space of the panic room, one hand pressed to her lower back where tension was building. Through the security feeds, she could see the approaching vehicles, black SUVs moving with military precision through the trees. Harrison? Her voice was steadier than she felt. How many? At least 12 men. He checked the weapons cache built into the wall. Professional hit team, but they'll have to get through us first. The baby kicked hard, making her wince. Something felt off, the tension in her back spreading around to her abdomen, but there wasn't time to worry about that now. Ms. Carter? One of Harrison's team, Andrea, former Special Forces medic, moved closer. You're looking pale. How long have you been having contractions? I'm not. But another wave of tightness cut her off. Oh, God. Status report, Harrison Day barked into his comm. 6 minutes out from first contact, a voice crackled back. They're moving faster than expected. Ma'am? Andrea's hands were professional as they helped Olivia to the small cot. I need you to be honest with me about what you're feeling. That baby might have very bad timing. Outside, the morning sun glinted off weapons as the strike team moved into position. Inside, Olivia grabbed Andrea's hand as another contraction gripped her. Harrison? She forced the words out through clenched teeth. Tell Ethan. Tell him he better get here fast. Because his child? They're not waiting for his dramatic rescue. The security feed showed the first team breaching the outer perimeter. Time was running out. And somewhere between London and the lake house, Ethan Montgomery was about to learn that in the race between his enemies and his unborn child, the baby might just win. The helicopter cut through dark storm clouds, fighting wind that seemed determined to push them off course. Ethan sat rigid, one hand gripping his phone where Harrison's updates appeared with terrifying regularity. Perimeter breached on east side. 2 teams down, but they're advancing. Ms. Carter's contractions 5 minutes apart. The last message made his heart stop. Too early. The baby was coming too early. How long? He demanded of the pilot. 20 minutes in this weather. The man's face was grim. Maybe 15 if the storm holds north. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the countryside below. Somewhere ahead was the lake house, and in it, everything that mattered in his world. His phone buzzed again. Lawrence this time. Protocol 0 initiated, his assistant reported. All offshore accounts activated. Board members being contacted individually. But sir, Richard Klein just called an emergency press conference. Let him. Ethan's voice was steel. By the time he steps up to that podium, every account he and Chen have touched will be frozen. Every shell company exposed. Every conspirator named. It's not just that. Lawrence hesitated. He's claiming to have proof about Laurent de Vries, about why he really left the company. The implications hit hard. He's going after Laurent? Already has. French police just arrested him at his Paris apartment. They're claiming evidence of massive fraud dating back 15 years. 15 years. When Ethan was just starting out, when Laurent was teaching him everything he knew about business and about survival. Sir? The pilot's voice cut through his thoughts. We've got a problem. Local authorities are ordering us to divert. They're claiming restricted airspace. Of course. Chen's influence at work, trying to slow him down. Ignore them. Sir, they're threatening to scramble jets. Let them. Ethan leaned forward. You've got diplomatic clearance codes in your system. Use them. Those are for emergencies only. My wife is in labor while professional killers try to breach her safe room. Ethan's voice could have frozen hell. Use the codes. At the lake house, Olivia gripped Andrea's hand as another contraction peaked. Through the pain, she could hear Harrison coordinating the defense, his voice tight with controlled tension. Team 3, fall back to secondary positions. Team 2, I need that east corridor locked down now. 4 minutes apart, Andrea reported quietly, checking her watch, and getting stronger. We need to make some decisions soon. Olivia nodded, sweat beading on her forehead. How bad is it out there? Andrea's hesitation was answer enough. On the security feeds, they could see Harrison's teams engaging with the attackers. The advantage of defensive positions was helping, but the professionals attacking them were good. Too good. They're not just mercenaries, Harrison said, joining them while reloading his weapon. These are ex-military. Special ops. They know exactly what they're doing. Like they knew about the panic room? Olivia gasped as another contraction built. The blueprints? No. Harrison's expression was grim. Like they've been practicing this assault. They know our protocols, our response patterns. This isn't just about the blueprints. They've been studying us. A crash echoed through the feeds, the sound of the main door being breached. Harrison pressed a button and steel shutters slid silently over the panic room's walls, adding another layer of protection. How long will it hold? Olivia managed between breaths. Long enough. But Harrison's eyes went to the medical supplies Andrea was laying out. The question is, how long do we have before that little one decides to make an appearance? First babies usually take their time, Andrea offered, helping Olivia change position. Could be hours yet. A violent explosion rocked the house, making the security feeds flicker. When they stabilized, 3 cameras were dark. Unless they use explosives to access the lower levels, Harrison amended. Then we might have other problems. Olivia closed her eyes, trying to focus on her breathing like her prenatal classes had taught. But those classes hadn't covered giving birth in a panic room while under assault. Harrison? One of his team called from the communication station. We've got an incoming helicopter, unknown signature. Ethan? Olivia's hope must have shown in her voice. Can't confirm, they're running dark. Harrison studied the radar display. Could be reinforcements for them. Andrea, get her away from the outer wall. Johnson, Peters, coverage positions. Another explosion. Closer this time. On the remaining feeds, they could see the strike. Team moving with practiced efficiency through the house's upper levels. 3 minutes apart, Andrea reported as another contraction hit. And her water just broke. This baby. They're not waiting for backup. Harrison made a decision. Peters, get the emergency medical kit. Johnson, help Andrea move that cot to the far corner. If they breach this room, that's our last defensible position. Harrison, Olivia grabbed his arm as he passed. If it comes down to it, if you have to choose between protecting me or getting this baby out safely, that's not going to happen. His voice was firm. Your husband didn't hire me just for my tactical skills. I delivered my own daughter in a sandstorm in Afghanistan. Trust me, this baby is going to be fine. The helicopter's signature on their radar grew stronger. Outside, the storm that had been threatening all morning finally broke, rain hammering against the house's remaining windows. 2 minutes out, the comm officer reported. They're requesting... Wait. He pressed his earpiece tighter. That's not standard protocol. They're broadcasting. Through the speakers came a sound that made Olivia's heart stop. Mozart's Piano Concerto No. 23, the piece that had been playing the night Ethan proposed. It's him. Tears mixed with sweat on her face. Harrison, it's him. Confirm identity. Harrison ordered, but his relief was visible. And someone get me a secure landing zone. Peters, upper corridor team. Prepare to receive friendlies. Another contraction gripped Olivia, stronger than before. Andrea's face grew serious as she checked her progress. Harrison? The medic's voice was calm, but urgent. Tell Mr. Montgomery he better land fast. This baby's not waiting for dramatic. Entrances. Outside, the helicopter's rotors grew louder, competing with the storm. Inside, Olivia fought to breathe through pain that seemed to consume her world. "Ethan," she whispered, one hand pressed to her belly where their child fought to enter. The world. "Hurry." In the helicopter, Ethan gripped his phone as Harrison's latest update came through. "Baby coming. Room still secure, hurry." "Faster," he ordered the pilot even as lightning cracked dangerously close. "Whatever it takes." Because he hadn't fought this hard, hadn't sacrificed everything to miss this moment. Chen, Richard, the company, none of it mattered. His world had narrowed to a fortified room where his wife battled to bring their child into the world, while professional killers tried to reach her. The lake house appeared through the rain, emergency lights marking a landing zone on the lawn. Even from the air, he could see the signs of battle: broken windows, smoke rising from the east wing, Harrison's teams engaging hostiles near the main entrance. "Sir?" The pilot tensed. "We're taking fire." "Land anyway." Because beneath, the sound of rotors and gunfire carrying faintly through the storm came a different sound. A baby's first cry, announcing their arrival into a world of chaos and love and desperate hope. Ethan Montgomery had just become a father. And heaven, help anyone who tried to stand between him and his family. The world had narrowed to the sound of his daughter's cries. Ethan moved through the chaos of the lake house like a force of nature, Harrison's advance team clearing his path. Gunfire echoed from the east wing, but it was background noise now. Nothing mattered except reaching that reinforced room where his child's first cries pierced the air. "Status?" he demanded as Harrison himself appeared from a side corridor. "Mother and daughter stable." Harrison fell into step beside him, efficiently dispatching a hostile who emerged from the library. "But we've got problems. They're not retreating." "Of course not." Ethan checked his phone. Still no response from Lawrence about Laurent's situation in Paris. "They're not here just for Olivia and the baby. They want something else." "Sir?" Harrison keyed in the first security code for the panic room. "What aren't you telling me?" Before Ethan could respond, gunfire erupted from above. Two of Harrison's men went down as a new team of attackers rappelled through the skylight. "Protect the entrance." Harrison shoved Ethan toward the panic room door. "Secondary team, upper-level breach." Ethan's fingers flew over the keypad, entering the complex sequence that would grant him access. Inside, he could still hear his daughter crying, strong, healthy cries that made his heart constrict. The door opened with a hydraulic hiss, revealing a scene he'd never forget. Olivia, exhausted but radiant, cradling a tiny bundle against her chest. Andrea beside her, monitoring vital signs. And in the corner, the reason for the attacker's persistence: an encrypted laptop that contained every secret Laurent had entrusted to them. "Ethan." Olivia's voice was weak but joy-filled. "Meet your daughter." The world stopped. The gunfire, the explosions, the crisis unfolding around them, all of it faded as he crossed the room and saw his child's face for the first time. Tiny features, still scrunched from birth, a wisp of dark hair beneath the blanket. "She's perfect." His voice cracked as he touched her impossibly small hand. "Just like her mother." "Sir." Harrison's urgent voice broke the moment. "We need to move them, now. They've breached the East Wing security." As if in response, an explosion rocked the house, closer than any before. The baby startled, her cries intensifying. "Can you walk?" Ethan asked Olivia, noting how pale she was. "Do I have a choice?" But her attempt at humor was strained. "Andrea's given me something for the pain, but—" "No time for a stretcher," Harrison interrupted. "They're targeting power systems. If they cut backup power—" "The elevator to the tunnel won't work," Ethan finished. "Andrea, help me with her. Harrison, the laptop." "Already secured." Harrison grabbed the computer. "But sir, if that's what they're really after—" "Then we use it." Ethan helped Olivia to her feet, supporting most of her weight. "Harrison, leak our location. Make sure they know we're heading for the tunnel." "Sir?" "Trust me." Ethan's expression was dangerous. Chen made one crucial mistake. He thought Laurent only gave us information about the corporate takeover. Understanding dawned in Harrison's eyes. There's more on that laptop. Much more, including... Ethan broke off as another explosion hit, this one taking out the main power. Emergency lights kicked in, bathing everything in red, including proof of who really ordered this attack. And it's not Chen or Richard, the baby whimpered, and Olivia instinctively clutched her closer. Ethan, what aren't you telling me? Laurent didn't just uncover corporate espionage. Ethan helped her toward the secondary exit, Andrea supporting her other side. He found evidence of an entire shadow board, powerful people who've been manipulating companies, governments, even wars. Chen and Richard are just pawns. And now these people are after us? Olivia's voice shook. After our daughter? No. Ethan's voice hardened. They're after the only copy of Laurent's evidence that they haven't managed to destroy. The laptop Richard thought he'd taken from Laurent's safe? A decoy. The real data? Laurent gave it to you in Paris. The external drive. Olivia remembered the small device Laurent had pressed into her hands. The one he said to give to you only if they came after us like this. Ethan nodded to Harrison, who began the sequence to open the secret passage. Laurent knew they'd make their move eventually. He just didn't expect you to be in labor when they did. The passage opened silently, revealing a steep staircase leading down. Above them, the sounds of fighting grew closer. Sir? Harrison checked the tactical display on his phone. They've taken the bait. 2 teams converging on the tunnel entrance. Good. Ethan lifted Olivia into his arms despite her protest, careful of their newborn daughter. Andrea, stay with them. Harrison, get your best team and make lots of noise heading for the tunnel. The rest of you with me. Where are we really going? Olivia asked as he carried her not toward the stairs but toward what appeared to be a solid wall. Something Laurent taught me years ago. Ethan nodded to Andrea, who pressed a hidden panel. The wall slid aside, revealing a second passage. Always have an escape route nobody knows about, not even the architects. The baby had quieted, seemingly soothed by her father's steady movements. As they moved into the hidden tunnel, Olivia finally asked the question that had been burning since his arrival. The company? Everything you built? Gone. His voice was calm. The moment I initiated Protocol Zero, everything transferred to secure accounts. Shell companies, assets, all of it. Legally untraceable. By tomorrow, Montgomery Industries won't exist on paper. You gave up everything. She touched his cheek. For us? No. He looked down at their daughter, his expression softening. I finally chose what matters. The rest we can rebuild. Together. The tunnel led them to a hidden bunker where a car waited. As Andrea helped settle Olivia and the baby in the back seat, Ethan's phone buzzed one final time. A message from Laurent routed through layers of security. They took the bait. Paris police lost me during transfer, heading to the rendezvous point. Tell my granddaughter I can't wait to meet her properly this time. Ethan smiled as he got behind the wheel. Chen, Richard, the shadow board, they thought they were hunting him. But with Laurent's evidence, his daughter safe, and Olivia back in his life, the hunters were about to become the hunted. Where are we going? Olivia asked as they emerged onto a private road, the sounds of battle fading behind them. Somewhere safe. He reached back to touch their daughter's tiny hand. Somewhere we can introduce this little one to her grandfather Laurent properly. Because this wasn't the end of their story. In many ways, with their daughter's first breath, it was just beginning. The Scottish Highlands stretched endlessly before them, ancient mountains shrouded in morning mist. The private estate, one of Laurent's many hidden properties, sat nestled in a valley, its stone walls and modern security systems, an unlikely combination that perfectly suited their needs. Olivia stood at the nursery window, watching the sunrise while their daughter slept peacefully in her arms. 3 days had passed since their escape from the lake house. 3 days of healing, bonding, and waiting for the other shoe to drop. She's finally asleep? Ethan's voice was soft as he entered, his footsteps silent on the plush carpet. Just now. Olivia turned, taking in his appearance. He'd abandoned his usual suits for casual clothes, but the lines of tension around his eyes remained. Any word from Laurent? He's in position. Ethan moved closer, gently touching their daughter's dark curls. The evidence is being prepared for release. Lawrence has everything encrypted and ready to go to every major news outlet simultaneously. And the shadow board? Taking the bait. A grim smile crossed his face. Chen's company announced an emergency acquisition bid this morning. They think they've won. That destroying my company means they've destroyed the evidence. The baby stirred, making tiny sounds in her sleep that tugged at both their hearts. Olivia shifted her carefully, still marveling at how something so small could command such power over them. She needs a name, she said softly. We can't keep calling her Little One. I've been thinking about that. Ethan's hand moved to support the baby's head, his touch infinitely gentle. What about Victoria? It means victory. Olivia smiled. Victory over everything they tried to do to us. Victoria Grace Montgomery. He tested the name. Strong enough to face whatever comes, graceful enough to rise above it. Like her mother? Olivia meant it as a joke, but Ethan's expression turned serious. Exactly like her mother. He cupped her cheek with his free hand. You faced everything, alone for so long, rebuilt your life, protected our child, never gave up hope that the truth would come out. Not entirely alone. She leaned into his touch. Laurent has a lot to answer for. But there was no anger in Ethan's voice. He should have told me about the shadow board years ago, about how deep their influence went. He was protecting you. Olivia walked to the antique crib, another of Laurent's perfect touches, and gently laid Victoria down. Just like you protected me by walking away when Richard threatened to destroy my career along with yours. Ethan's expression darkened at the memory. I should have seen through it. The gallery accusations, the supposed evidence of corporate espionage. I let them manipulate my worst fears. And I should have fought harder to make you listen. She turned to face him. We both made mistakes, Ethan, but they brought us here to her. As if on cue, Victoria sighed in her sleep, one tiny fist escaping her blanket. They both moved to tuck it back in, their hands meeting over their daughter. The moment was interrupted by Harrison's quiet entrance. Sir? The package from Paris just arrived. Ethan straightened, all business again. Laurent's final evidence? Yes, sir, and there's something else. Something about Richard Klein's connection to the shadow board. It's bigger than we thought. Show me. They moved to the study, close enough to hear Victoria through the baby monitor, but far enough not to disturb her sleep. On the antique desk, Harrison laid out documents and photos that made Olivia's blood run cold. Richard wasn't just working for them, Ethan said quietly, studying the evidence. He's part of them. His father was one of the founding members. Harrison pointed to an old photograph. The shadow board has been manipulating global markets for 3 generations. Chen's company, your company, they're just pieces in a larger game. And Laurent knew? Olivia asked. All this time? He discovered it when Richard's father tried to recruit him 20 years ago. Ethan's voice was grim. That's why he took me under his wing. He was grooming me to help him expose them. But something went wrong. Richard figured it out. Harrison laid out more photos. He realized Laurent was building a case against his family's entire organization. That's when they started moving. Against both of you. The divorce wasn't just about weakening Ethan's company. It was about isolating him from Laurent's influence. And now? Olivia's hand went protectively to the baby monitor at her waist. Now we have everything we need to destroy them. Ethan's smile was dangerous. Laurent's evidence combined with what we gathered during the takeover attempt? It's enough to expose 3 generations of market manipulation, political interference even. He broke off as his phone buzzed. The message from Lawrence was brief, but devastating. Richard found Chen. He's dead. Board meeting called for tomorrow. Morning. They're going public with everything. They're making their move. Harrison was already pulling up security feeds. If they expose a version of the conspiracy first, they can control the narrative. How long do we have? Olivia asked. The board meets at 9 a.m. London time. Ethan checked his watch. 14 hours. Sir. Harrison's voice was urgent. Perimeter sensors just picked up helicopter activity. 3 aircraft coming in fast. Victoria's cry through the baby monitor galvanized them all into action. Olivia rushed to the nursery while Ethan and Harrison activated security protocols. How did they find us? She demanded, lifting their daughter close. They didn't. Ethan appeared in the doorway, relief evident in his stance. It's Laurent. He brought backup. Through the nursery window, they watched 3 helicopters land on the estate's lawn. From the first emerged Laurent himself, elegant as ever in his French designer suit. From the others came teams of what could only be federal agents. My friends at Interpol, Laurent announced when they met him in the grand entry. Ready to take our evidence public and protect your family while they do. He paused, eyes fixing on the bundle in Olivia's arms. And this must be my granddaughter. Victoria chose that moment to open her eyes, fixing Laurent with a stare that made him catch his breath. She has your spirit, he told Olivia, then smiled at Ethan. And your determination. May I? As Laurent held his honorary granddaughter for the first time, Ethan's phone buzzed again. This time, the message made him smile. Lawrence has everything in place. The moment the board meeting starts, every piece of evidence goes public. Banking records, secret meetings, 3 generations of manipulating world events, all of it. And Richard? Olivia asked. We'll learn what happens when you threaten the wrong family. Laurent's voice was steel beneath its cultured accent. Both his corporate one and his real one. Victoria gurgled, reaching for Laurent's immaculate tie, and the tension in the room softened. She really does need protecting, Laurent mused, letting the baby grab his finger instead. The world can be quite dangerous for those born to change it. She has us, Ethan said simply, wrapping an arm around Olivia. All of us. Because tomorrow would bring chaos. Exposed conspiracies, toppled power structures, the end of a shadow organization that had manipulated world events for generations. But tonight, in this safe harbor in the Scottish Highlands, a family pieced itself back together. Victoria Grace Montgomery slept peacefully, unaware that her very existence had helped expose a conspiracy that would reshape the financial world. Outside, Laurent's Interpol teams took up defensive positions, and in the study, Ethan and Olivia prepared for one final battle, not for wealth or power, but for the chance to give their daughter a world with fewer shadows. Dawn would bring revolution, but for now, they had this moment, this peace, this second chance at the family they'd almost lost. The London financial district gleamed in the early morning sun, its towers of glass and steel reflecting golden light as the city awakened. In the Montgomery Industries boardroom, Richard Klein straightened his tie, surveying the assembled board members with carefully crafted concern. Gentlemen, ladies, he began, what I'm about to share will shock you, but the evidence of Ethan, Montgomery's criminal. The doors burst open. Laurent de Vries strode in, followed by Interpol agents and financial crimes investigators. Please. Laurent's smile was razor-sharp. Do continue. I'm particularly interested in hearing about criminal behavior. This is a private meeting, Richard snapped, but his face had gone pale. Security. Your security team has been detained. Laurent moved to the head of the table. Along with most of the Shadow Board's operational leadership across 3 continents, it's been quite a busy morning. The boardroom erupted in confusion. Through it all, Richard's expression shifted from shock to calculation to something approaching triumph. You have nothing, he said quietly. Chen destroyed. Chen? Laurent raised an eyebrow. Oh, you mean the man you murdered? The one wearing a wire during your entire conversation about eliminating loose ends? Before Richard could respond, the room's screens flickered to life. Lawrence's face appeared, calm and professional as ever. Pardon the interruption, he said, but Mr. Montgomery thought you should all witness this live. The screen split, showing simultaneous news broadcasts from around the world. BBC, CNN, Al Jazeera, all running the same headlines. Global financial conspiracy exposed. Shadow board operations revealed. 3 generations of market manipulation uncovered. Impossible, Richard whispered. The evidence was destroyed in the Lake House attack. The Lake House? Laurent's laugh was gentle. My friend, did you really think we'd keep something so valuable in such an obvious location? Though I must thank you. The attack provided excellent cover for implementing the final phase of our plan. The screens changed again, showing surveillance footage, banking records, secret meetings, decades of carefully gathered evidence streaming across every major news network in the world. You see, Laurent continued, while you were so focused on destroying Ethan's company, on separating him from Olivia, on eliminating every trace of your family's corruption, you missed what was happening right in front of you. Which was what? Richard's hand moved toward his jacket, but an Interpol agent stepped forward smoothly. The birth of something stronger than corruption. Laurent's voice hardened. Family, trust, the very things your shadow board sought to manipulate became its downfall. The boardroom doors opened again. Ethan Montgomery entered, with Olivia beside him carrying Victoria. The baby, dressed in a tiny dress that probably cost more than most cars, regarded the room with curious eyes. Hello, Richard. Ethan's voice was calm. I believe you've met my daughter, the one whose existence forced you to accelerate your plans. You destroyed everything, Richard snarled. The company is exactly where it should be. Ethan moved to stand beside Laurent, in the hands of people who understand that true power comes from building things, not destroying them. Olivia stepped forward, Victoria secure in her arms. Your father tried to recruit Laurent all those years ago because he recognized something in him, the same thing Laurent saw in Ethan, the ability to change the world without corrupting it. And now? Richard looked around the boardroom at the evidence still streaming across the screens, at the agents moving to position themselves around him. What happens now? Now? Ethan smiled, touching Victoria's tiny hand. Now we rebuild. The right way. The next hours passed in a blur of arrests, statements, and revelations. The shadow board's influence had reached further than anyone imagined, controlling not just companies but governments, policies, even wars. As the evidence Laurent had spent decades gathering went public, the financial world shuddered and began to reshape itself. Later, in the penthouse that had witnessed both their greatest joy and deepest pain, Olivia stood at the window watching the city lights flicker on. Victoria slept peacefully in her bassinet, while Ethan and Laurent discussed the future of the company. The board has approved the restructuring, Laurent was saying. With the shadow board's assets frozen and their influence eliminated, we can implement the changes we've always dreamed of. Ethical investment, Ethan nodded. Sustainable development, using our power to build instead of control. And you? Olivia turned from the window. Will you take back control of the company? Ethan moved to join her, wrapping an arm around her waist. Only if you'll help me run it. Your insight, your creativity, they're exactly what we need to build something new. Speaking of building, Laurent interrupted smoothly, I have a gift for the 3 of you. He handed Ethan an envelope. Inside were deeds and blueprints, plans for a home that combined Olivia's artistic vision with Ethan's love of modern efficiency. A place by the sea with room for Victoria to grow, for art to flourish, for family to expand. I believe, Laurent smiled, this might be a better surprise than that house in Hampshire. Olivia laughed, tears in her eyes. It's perfect. Victoria stirred, making the soft sounds that preceded waking. All 3 adults moved toward her automatically, drawn by the magnetic pull of new life and fresh beginnings. "You know," Laurent said softly, watching Olivia lift her daughter, "in all my years of fighting the shadow board, I never truly understood what I was fighting for. Not until I saw you three together." "Family," Ethan said simply, joining his wife and daughter. "Yes." Laurent touched Victoria's cheek gently. "The one thing they could never corrupt or control. The power of love to rebuild what greed destroys." Outside, London hummed with the energy of change as the financial world restructured itself. Inside, Victoria Grace Montgomery drifted back, to sleep in her mother's arms while her father and honorary grandfather planned a future built on trust instead of power. "We did it," Olivia whispered, leaning into Ethan's embrace. "We really did it." "No," he corrected softly, looking at their daughter. "We're just beginning." Because some endings are really beginnings in disguise, and as the sun set on the old world of shadow boards and corruption, it rose on something new, a future shaped not by power and control, but by the simple, unshakable bonds of family and love. Victoria sighed in her sleep, secure in the knowledge that she was surrounded by people who had moved heaven and earth to protect her. And in that peace, in that promise of tomorrow, lay the greatest victory of all. If you found out that the person you loved most in the world had been manipulated into doubting you, like Olivia found out about Ethan, would you have the courage to fight for that love again, or would you let your pride speak louder? Leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought. Your feedback and support mean a lot to us. Stay tuned for more exciting stories.